Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. I see there's already quite a few of you, so this might be a topic that you are concerned with, what scales you play. Hello everybody, how's everyone doing? It's good to see you, though virtually, but still good to be around. And I see there's quite a few people. Please, as always, let me know where you're from, if you're new, and if you're one of the old timers, say hello. And so I hope your weekend has been going well. I've been running around today trying to do a lot of stuff, and so I've done quite a few things, and I will share a little bit with you promptly. But anyway, if you're new here, every Saturday, 6:30 Central European Time. That's about I think it's let's do the easy ones, right? 12:30 if you're in New York. 9:30 in the morning if you are in California, and then you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. Just watch your daylight savings. If there's any country still left dealing with that, you might want to make sure you don't get here an hour late or an hour early. And as always, I'm very grateful that you're here on a Saturday where I'm sure you have plenty of other stuff to do. So thanks again for being here, and let's get started. So today I'm going to talk about something that's been a hot topic for guitar players for a while. I remember many years ago, I did a video on the CAGED system, I think. And I was told in a comment what I thought of this huge controversy. I think somebody published a book or something, or wrote an article about how the CAGED system is crap. And, I told him I don't care, I don't have any opinion on it, but, if it works for you, then good. But then from then on, I think there's been this debate of which way is best of learning scales and why one sucks and the other one's great. So we're going to get through it, and by the end, you'll have, the tools to make up your own mind and decide what you want to do. And, oh, look at that. Sean, hello, Sean. It's been a while, right? We haven't seen you around here. Good. Welcome back. Alberto, what's up? Hello. Reki, hello, Andre. Hi everyone, I'm a first timer here from France. Wow, that's great. All right, bonsoir. I hope you enjoyed. Have you watched some of the old videos? I hope so you don't get too disappointed now in the live one. But welcome, and I assume you're a guitar player. So I hope this will be useful for you. Juan Pablo, ¿qué tal, Juan Pablo? I can never see the icons you post. And so anyway, that's it. That's a deal today. But before we get started, as always, I will share a bit of news with you, and this you might find interesting. This is something I kind of mentioned a while ago, and as you can see here, my first book of my guitar method, I think I'm done. So this is a quick scroll through. It's dedicated to alternate picking, and you see it's a shorter thing. It's about 30 some pages, but it has quite a bit of exercises. On the right hand side, you see those files there. Those are all the audio files. There's an audio file for every exercise, and for your sake, I decided to record them all with a clean tone, and that was great for the first two exercises. And then I realized how, what kind of hole I dug myself into, because, you have to play right on time, and with good sound, and consistent, and also with the clean tone. So I hope you'll appreciate the effort, and I hope to have it ready by next week. Hopefully we'll announce it and you'll be able to get it next week. I think I'm done with it. I just have one correction to make, and then I will have to decide or figure out a way to do it, to get it out to the public. So I'm looking at some methods of doing that, and maybe we'll start with something very simple and then do something a bit more complicated. All right. Hello, Jim. Welcome. Reki, you did see some old videos? Great. And you like your content? Okay, great. Thanks. All right, it's good to see you, and please do use the chat, because they're all a bunch of nice people. I'm not nice, but I'm not supposed to be, because I'm teaching you stuff. So anyway, the book will be out. I'm sure I'll be able to, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get it to you next weekend, and it will be very fairly priced, I think, and it will keep you busy for a long time. And in the meantime, I'm already thinking of the next one, and my plan is to have a few books to complete the guitar method. All right, so yeah, I'll give you more details as I have them. And so it was also Black Friday yesterday, and I wanted to know what you guys got. Did you get anything interesting? I'm going to give you a suggestion, but I hope you're still in time. But Waves are giving away this plugin, which is the CLA Ecosphere. And I got it yesterday, and somehow they said that it was only for yesterday, but today on the website, I think you can still get it. So it's basically a blend of reverb and delay. And even if only just to get an idea of how he uses these two things together, you know, he's a big proponent of having delay going into a reverb, so you get this more three-dimensional space around which to build your, you know, your stereo field. So definitely check it out. I didn't get anything though. I was thinking about getting some Spitfire libraries. There's one of them, the full orchestra one. Well, there's two of them, the Abbey Road and the BBC Core. But I behaved and I didn't get anything, because sometimes you think you need this stuff, but you don't, right? But I'm thinking that I wanted you guys to tell me what you got, and hopefully you won't get me into trouble. Jim, you got it? All right, cool. And the STL Tone plugin is 50% off. You know, I don't know what. Oh, yeah. Is it the guitar thing? The guitar amps? All right, so you see there's quite a bit of stuff. And Spitfire has some really cool offers. And also there's another quirky drum machine that was free, but I forgot the name. But yeah, I'm trying to behave, as you can imagine. Yeah, STL, weren't they made with a really good pair? One is a producer and the other one is an engineer. Is that correct? And they made this this pack for the plugin. Or the guy, I forget his name right now. The engineer, he's incredible at recording guitars. So that might be interesting. Okay, thanks for, you know, accosting me, Alberto. All right, so how about we get started? But please keep going with the suggestions for the plugins. And if you have questions, write it down. You know, maybe you're asking what would be a good plugin today for you know, for reverbs or whatever. Then I'm sure we can all help you out. So post your questions and let's get started. All right. So what's the debate? The debate is that some people, I guess, which was kind of new to me, but then it was also brought up by some students. They say, well, I will learn in CAGED because I heard that shit. And so we're going to get to it. And the main thing is a lot of people who play the guitar, especially rock, you know, more improvisational or, you know, modern kind of guitar, they are always starting with one way of learning scales. And I've seen that there's a few of them. Sometimes people start with some kind of peculiar and idiosyncratic way that they inherit from their teacher, right? So that's out of my hand. I can't, you know, talk to each specific one, but the main ones are the CAGED system. So people will come in with some of it worked out, the CAGED system. And the other one is the 3 notes per string, which are the two most common ones. And they're very useful, you know, and we'll see why. I also have a few of them that I use with my students and I use myself, and I will give them to you at the end, right? So we go CAGED, 3 notes per string, and then I'll give you my view on it. But the main thing here is that is CAGED better than 3 notes per string? If you don't want to go through the whole video, none is better than the other, and I'm not trying to be democratic here, it's just that it's true, and you should learn both of them, plus the stuff I'm going to talk about at the end of the video. And that's really that simple. And the short of it is that when you learn scales, it doesn't matter what method you use to learn the scales and what kind of organizing set you use. What is important is that you understand the scales and you see them on the fretboard. And what I found is that usually you need more than one method, because one method will will eventually lock you into it. So you will see the scale all over the neck, you know, because I've had students who study properly, but you still see it tied to that specific pattern. Okay, we're going to look at it. But if you guys know about the CAGED system, we talked about it. We had a whole video just a while ago. And so I suggest, if you are not very familiar with it, go back and watch it. But I will give you the, you know, the short of it, and without too much detail. And so the idea here is that, now I have no idea if the guitar is in frame. Okay. All right. Hopefully it's not too loud. Okay, so the idea here is that with the CAGED system, let me see. All right. Okay, so the CAGED system, the idea is that I base my positions on groups of roots. Okay, so I set up my neck and I find all my Cs. And for each one of those sets, I prepare one position. So basically I fill it up. I fill it up with all the notes from that scale around those roots. So there's 5 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're not going to give you a lesson on CAGED today, but there's 5 positions. Each one is associated to a set of roots that remind you of the position of those roots in open string chords. So we have the C shape, the A shape. You see how it looks like an A in the open strings? Then we have the G shape. See how it is like a G. And then the E shape and the D shape. Of course, this is this one. Okay? Now, of course, they all sound in C because I'm playing the C major scale. But that's the idea. Okay, so why is it such a great tool to begin with? The first thing is that it's easy to see, it's easy to visualize, and it's also easy to compartmentalize. So you can actually get away with knowing 2 positions, and that will cover most of your notes, okay, most of the fretboard. Imagine I only study the 2nd position with the root on the 5th string, and the 4th position with the root on the 6th string. Why am I saying that? Well, because most people know their 6th string and their 5th string a lot better than they know the other ones. And so, especially, you know, between the 8th and the 12th fret or the 6th fret, you know, that's where most people have problems. So knowing a scale that has a reference for you on the 6th string and on the 5th is a huge step for somebody who's trying to learn scales and is starting out. The reason is that no matter what happens, you can always have access to the right scale. And because these scales are based on the root position, so basically where the root is, then you don't really even need to know too well what the other notes on the scales are. As long as you know that your scale starts here and it goes like this, tick, 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 like that, you know, your fingers, then you can move it anywhere. You can go from a scale that has no sharps and no flats, which is extremely simple, like C major, and go like, well, this guy says he wants to sing in A flat major because C is too high, I want to go down 2 whole steps. And now I have 4 flats and I don't know them, I don't know what I'm doing. But the CAGED system says, don't worry about it, you know, go down to the A flat, you just have to know how to find it on the 6th string. And automatically you're playing the right scale. But not only that, you want to play higher on the neck? No problem. We have another A flat on the 5th string, and as long as you respect that position, so you have to know those 2, then you pretty much cover. You see how I could play here and I could play here, and they almost fall into each other. Now, if you want to do things properly, you learn 5 of them and you cover the whole fretboard, by far the whole fretboard. I mean, you probably don't even need all 5, but you can do that, and then you have references all over the neck, right? On other strings, you know, in different areas of the neck. So what's not to like about it? I don't know. I don't understand that. And the reason that some people say, well, but then you only move by positions, and that's true, but that's only if you want. Because if you want to know the notes, right, I can play the CAGED system and know that A flat major is A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, and A. Yeah, that's right, G and A. And so if I know that, then I can still use the CAGED system to move around. And if I know that this is an A flat, and I can build a position. As always, I have no idea what I'm playing because I haven't figured out yet how to do it without headphones. I don't want to wear headphones for these videos. I'm already talking to myself. If I even wear headphones, then I go crazy. But you see, I can use all this stuff, and I can know that if I'm improvising in A flat, and I wonder if I can play this note, if I know my neck and I know that this is an E flat, I know that I can play it in my scale. And there's many other ways you can do it, but the CAGED system really does include all the notes of every scale. If that is true, then it could be your only method of learning scales. The thing is how deep you want to go with it. Okay, so if you want to go deep with the CAGED system, this is my little advice. First of all, know the 5 positions by movement. Just know how to move your fingers. So basically go through all 5 positions. This is not what we're doing today. I refer you back to our older video, but just a few weeks ago, by the way. And so you go through the first position, you play chromatically all the way up the neck and then all the way down, right? Remember? And that gives you, it makes you feel safe that you know the fingering. Then you know the fingering and you're very careful of where the root is for each one of these fingers, okay? Otherwise you won't be able to move them around. And the third thing is that you will know every single note on that fingering. And so eventually you will start easy, right? C major, okay, C major is only natural, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But then maybe I go down to F major, which has one flat. So I need to be able to say F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. And then maybe I go up on the other side when there's only one sharp and go G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And that's where the circle of fifths come in. Again, watch that video. I'll try to post links, but that's the idea. All right, so you can go deep as you want with the CAGED system. Another advantage that the CAGED system has, besides being easy to visualize, is that it's based on chords. We said that it's based on relative positions of chords. What that means is that wherever you are on the neck, if you find yourself in one of these very typical positions, you can, as soon as you play a chord, adapt to that chord with a scale. Right? So that's something that's not always present. And because the CAGED system moves vertically, you'll see there's not a lot of movement sideways. You know, all the positions are kind of like, if they start here, they end there. And so it's a lot easier for you to localize complete chords on these positions. When I play something that's stretched out, then it's harder because what chord do I know that goes like this, right? When I can play it a lot easier on this side. So that's the thing. The cons of the CAGED system is that it is easy and it's comfortable and you might get stuck in it. And also that if you don't do your whole homework, like I said, you'll end up with positions, with fingerings, but you will not end up with a knowledge of the scale. And I've seen that many times because you will improvise and you'll be able to improvise. That's the thing, right? Anything comes up in G flat major or even the minors, of course, or the modes because they're all relative. And you'll come across a progression in B flat and you'll play on it, no problem. And you'll get used to it. Just playing because basically it will all sound pretty good. But you won't know what you're doing. So if you stop at the first level, it is true that the CAGED system doesn't require you to know a lot. The CAGED system doesn't care. It says, here's the roots. Okay, it doesn't ask you to know about the fifth or the fourth or the third. What is the sixth of F minor? You don't have to know it with the CAGED system. You just have to know where the F is and just play the position. It's fingers. And the risk is that you don't progress from it. Now, the solution to it is not necessarily finding another method of learning scales, is to go deeper with the CAGED system if you want. You know, if you've done all the work with it, you might as well take advantage of it and, you know, work on that. And so that's a trick though. Don't stay in the CAGED system because of not laziness, but don't feel complacent with it. So if you think you know how to play in E major that has 4 sharps just because you know the CAGED system, think about it. Do you know what chords to build in E major? Do you know what roots all these chords have? Because otherwise, it's just moving fingers, okay? And so each position will have a sound and you'll get stuck. And then after 5 years, you'll realize, wow, I've been playing for such a long time and it all sounds the same. Okay, so that's the big con of the CAGED system. The other thing is that they can be, excuse me, it can be a little bit, not difficult, but it's not very conducive to some techniques. It keeps alternating between 3 notes per string and 2 notes per string. And so the pick always changes. Some legatos might feel, you know, you get started with a legato and then you have to stop because there's only 2 notes. And so that's another thing that is addressed in other kinds of methods. But the CAGED system is great. The only thing is, it's so easy to learn and it requires so little of you just to know the roots. But that's not enough. So if you get stuck there, then it is true that it's limiting. But certainly it's not a problem in itself. It's a problem in how you study it. Okay, so learn it, but then go a bit deeper, and then a bit deeper, and then a bit deeper, and realize that it's just a way of organizing notes on the neck, nothing else. One final thing, people who talk about the CAGED system a lot, they only seem to concern themselves with the CAGED system as applied to major scales. But of course, any scale can work in the CAGED system because the CAGED system is based on roots. And every scale in the world will need a root, right? So basically, you can have a set of roots, and around these roots you can build major, minor, Dorian, Phrygian, tonal. You can do all kinds of stuff. All the modes of the melodic minor, harmonic minor, they're all there. So that's the other thing. Sometimes it's associated with being very strict and specific, but it is not. You can use the CAGED system for everything. The thing is, I've never seen a book that goes in depth with the CAGED system. Well, that might be a good idea for another book of my method. But, you know, it doesn't go deep enough. So the CAGED system is presented only for major and minor scales, at the most the diatonic modes. And so that's another issue. All right, so here's my take on the CAGED system. Learn it. Don't be without it. Use it, especially in the beginning, to become proficient in every key, because it's easy. You only need to know the root of the key on a few strings, and you're set. But don't get stuck in it without knowing the rest of the scale. All right? Hopefully that's clear. If you have any questions, please let me know. Now we're going to move on to the 3 notes per string. All right? And if you are not familiar with it, the name says it all. This method of learning scales is based on organizing scales on 3 notes on every string. So let's make it as easy as possible. If I'm in C major, I play C, and then I have to play 2 more notes on this string before I move, right? On the CAGED system, is there a lot of reverb? I'm hearing a tail in my headphones. Anyway, that's fine. If it sounds really bad, let me know. But if I turn up the speakers, then it feeds back into the mic. So if I'm playing the CAGED system, I'm not concerned about how many notes I'm playing anywhere. I'm just concerned about following these roots. But on the 3 notes per string, I actually have to play these 3 notes, C, D, E. And then I change strings. And no, it doesn't matter what I think I need to do. I just have to follow my scale with F, G, and A. And here they are. And then 3 more. So B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so that's the thing. It's really easy. And of course, you can do this with any scale you want. Just start with the first note, play 2 more notes on that 6th string, on the 5th, 3 more on the 4th, 3 more on the 3rd, and so on. The problem with this, well, we'll get to it, but the advantage of it is that it's really easy to play technical things and things that get started on one side and go like, blah, blah, you know, that way it can be with the pick, it can be legatos, it can be all kinds of stuff. It's really easy once you get started because it's 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. That's the biggest thing, and people like it for that. The other advantage, which is also a disadvantage, but if you work hard, it's an advantage, is how this method is organized. Instead of being organized around the roots, this one is organized around each note of the scale. So if I'm in C major, I'm doing C major just because it's easier, okay? I don't know your level of harmony and you know, the study of melody and all that stuff and theory. So if I'm in C major, I do know that C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, that's my scale. And here's the idea. I want one position for each of those 7 notes. So I will have position 1, which is C. Then I will have position 2, which starts on the next note, which is D. Then position 3 starts on the 3rd note. 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm playing 7 positions, 1 per note. So what does that mean? That means that before I had to study 5 positions, now I have to study 7 of them. The advantage of it? Well, there's many. One of them is that if I'm playing 7 positions, or 1 position per note of a major scale, what I'm really playing is all the possible modes. Okay, I'm starting 1 scale on each of those degrees. And that's beyond today's video, but keep it in mind, that's one advantage. And the other advantage, which is also a disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, is that I must know all the notes that make up my scale. If I'm using C major and I want to create one position per, for each of those 7 notes, I must know that C major is made up of C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Right? I can't think, well, is there a position in B flat or is it B natural? I can't think that way because then I won't be able to build 7 positions. I need one position per note. Now, how about B major? What are those 7 positions, right? Now, the shapes are going to be the same, of course. If you're in a major scale, the scale that originates on the second note, it will be the same on every major scale as long as you start on the second note. The thing is, what note am I going to start on? So if I want to start the second position in B major, I have to know that it's C sharp. And if I'm starting on, I don't know, whatever, if I'm starting on the 6th note of B major, I must know that it's G sharp. I can't start the position on a G, I can't start it on a G flat, I can't start it on an A, it has to be a G sharp. If I know that, then it's easy. Each of those 7 positions will work. So if I'm in B, let's do E first, the 6th note of C, I apologize. The 6th note of C is A, and if I learn that this is my 6th position, then this will always be the 6th position of a major scale in the 3 notes per string pattern. So if I'm in B, and I'm thinking, okay, which one is the 6th note of B? As long as I know that it's G sharp, then I can use the same position, of course. How about if I'm in, let's do one that's more difficult, D flat major. If I'm in D flat major, I have to know what's my 6th note of D flat. You see what I mean? And then if I'm in F, okay, well, what's my 6th note of F? That would be D flat. And I have to start on D flat with the right position, okay? And it will sound like this. And this will work over F major. All right, so that's the trick. And that's why it's considered another one of the big ones, because it covers the whole fretboard. It's very good for technique. It's very conducive to fast playing and fast runs. It requires you to know a lot of theory, or at least a little bit. You have to know the notes that come into each major scale and minor scale. It will also require, it's also very good for the modes, because it will show you the modes right in front of you. It puts them right there. If you play the 4th position, it's as Lydian as it's possible, Let me play it with a drone. See, it sounds extremely Lydian. And so each one of the 7 positions, besides being 7 positions of the major scale, they're always their own first positions of each mode. And so and you can go pretty deep with this. It's very interesting. The other thing that's very easy to see is how you move each octave on other strings. So if I learn that the first octave is the major octave, as long as I know how to do this, I can go to any note and start a major octave from there. Right? And then if I learn how each fingering continues, that I can start any positions anywhere. And this is really beyond today's video. It's actually something that's pretty hard to do on video, but it's something that I always do with my more advanced students. It's extremely important. Okay, but you see what I mean, though. It's a very interesting way of looking at things. Now, the disadvantage is that because they're set up so strictly, 3 notes per string, I can hear when people play it. I'm not claiming to hear all the time, but I can hear people who are not totally in control of them when they improvise. They have these very identifiable phrasing patterns. So they go blah, 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 blah. They do a lot of that. I can hear a lot of fluid melodic runs, no jumps and no it's all very, very much like this. It's harder to see. Now it sounds like crap, but it's harder to see scales vertically. They're very horizontal when you play 3 notes per string. Mine, they sounded pretty bad, I think. I don't know. Good thing I can hear myself. But anyway, you have to be prepared to sound like shit sometimes. That's one good lesson for you who play live and do this kind of stuff, you know, accept it. And so that's the thing. One of the things you have to be careful of is don't feel tied to the actual fingering, because the fingering is very melodic and very straight. It goes like that, and that's not something that's extremely important. That is extremely good to listen to. Also, because of the structure, it moves horizontally, so it's harder to see things vertically. Like the CAGED system, you see all these there's vertical connections between the notes, and that's basically intervals, and it's a lot easier to see on the CAGED system. All right, so that's my thing. And also, if you want to get into the 3 notes per string system, do know your scales, because they work great with the modes, but you have to know, for example, if I'm in E Lydian, okay, so what's the 5th note? What's the 4th note? What's the 6th note? What's the 2nd note of whatever, of F Phrygian? How many flats does F Phrygian have, right? How many, do you guys know? 1, 2, 3, it has 5 flats. So I have to know that it has 5 flats and which ones they are. F, G flat, A flat, B, C flat, D, I'm sorry, I forgot. F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F. That's my F Phrygian scale. Can I play it anywhere? Yes, I can play it from F. But then can I play it from the 6th note of F, right? What is the 6th note of F Phrygian? It would be a D flat. So I have to go to D flat and know what scale is associated to that degree of that mode. So if F Phrygian is 1, my 6th mode from Phrygian is actually Ionian or major. So I would have to play basically D flat major, but it's not a D flat major because my root is F, and this is from F. That's the sound of Phrygian, and so on. So it gets complicated pretty quickly, but it's a great method. Now, is there one better than the other? No, but let me go to your questions first. Do you use both CAGED and 3 notes per string approach, or do you just use one? Akash, hello Akash. No, actually, after this section, I'm going to talk about what I would do, all right? And it's not one or the other. It's not even just these two. I have a set of a few things that I do for every scale. So stay tuned, just a couple of more minutes, and then I'll tell you. That is art. Oh, hello, it's good to see you. I'm definitely CAGED. Yeah, ball and chain included. That's true. That's what I always say about the CAGED system. Watch it because it is like a cage. Is one better than the other for constructing arpeggios? Well, vertically, I would say it's the CAGED system. So if you are thinking of performing in arpeggios, this will be actually in the alternate picking book, but you go, so you want to... something like that, you know, you pick your notes from the arpeggio within the scale. The CAGED system is easier just because it's so vertical, and it's easier to see connections when they're vertical. They're much more spread out in the CAGED system. So until you know the whole fretboard really well, then you're probably better off with the CAGED system. My suggestion is to pick one of them and really squeeze all of it, all that you can out of it. That's the main thing, you know. So you can do arpeggios with both of them. At least I do try to sustain and bend notes. Well, that is good. Yeah. I like the CAGED system with 4 notes per strings. So I assume I'm definitely CAGED. Well, 4 notes per string will be a different thing. I'll talk about it a little bit at the end. But yeah, you know, the thing with 4 notes per string is not the easiest method to have as your basis, you know, and your basic, but also as the basis of your scale knowledge. Just because of the way the guitar is built in a way that basically every 2 or 3 notes you have that switch, right? So I can play, but you see how I have to move through the fretboard? With the guitar, really, the way it's built, you usually have this switch every 2 notes or every 3 notes. You know, as soon as you hit the 3rd note, you already have something available on the next note. to continue the scale, and that's actually a lot easier to not fight with it. You know, it's like you have an instrument that has a certain architecture and a certain design, and to me the 4 notes per string or 5, or more extreme like we'll see later, they're extremely useful, but more for an expressive or expression point of view, not necessarily to learn the scales. All right, but yeah, definitely if it works for you, you know, you should keep going with it. 3 notes per string here with the G string, 2 notes. I'm bad. What does that mean? 3 notes per string here with the G string, 2 notes. Okay, that is art. I haven't, you might want to rephrase that for me. Akash, thank you. Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it right now. All right, so that's my basic thing about those 2 scales. And here's what I think. I think it's a stupid debate. I put it in the title, and it's dumb, and it's for people who just spend all their time watching and commenting or making YouTube videos and not actually playing the guitar. Sorry, I said it. If you are part of that club, that is fine. You know, it's fine, and it might help you. It might help you get into it, but don't get swayed by it. You know, there's nothing wrong with any of these methods. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about my approach and my suggestions in just a couple of minutes. But why is it a dumb debate? Because basically when you learn scales, you're not learning scales. You're learning a way of producing on the guitar, which is your instrument of choice. An instrument is called that for a reason. It's not the end purpose. It's an instrument. It's a tool you use. And learning scales with the CAGED system, with the 3 notes per string system, whatever it is you want, is only it's an access point and a way of organizing this knowledge on the guitar. It doesn't matter how you learn your scales. If you, for example, imagine that you could just log on to YouTube and I could just put all the stuff I know about scales out of my head and put it out there in the chat room, and you can just download it to your computer and boop, and then you know every scale that I know everywhere on the neck. I'm not saying I know a lot of scales, but I know quite a few, and the ones I know, I do know them backwards, forwards, all the notes, whatever. Then what would you care about the CAGED system or the 3 notes per string, right? You wouldn't give a crap because you will know the scales. And when you talk about CAGED system versus whatever, it's all about a method of learning the scale. It's not the scale itself. You could go learn just 1 note at a time and have a great knowledge of scales eventually. The thing is, which one is the easiest to start with? I would say the CAGED system. Which one is the more complete for other purposes like technique and even learning the modes? Easier, the 3 notes per string. Deeper? I don't think so. I think it's a lot deeper if instead of learning the modes, because each position has a mode associated to it, you know, that's extremely limiting. If you know the modes really well on the CAGED system, that means you have a deeper knowledge of the modes. So it is a stupid debate, and there's no debate. I don't know anybody who knows how to play guitar properly who worries about what method am I using, because eventually, that's a trick, eventually you will forget, not really forget, but in musical use, you will forget whatever method you're using. And you shouldn't ever concern yourself with what patterns you're using, and if you start seeing yourself playing too much in patterns, that's a signal to switch things up, maybe change the method for a little while and break out of it, all right? The scale I play are all 3 notes per string, but when I get to the G string, I only use 2. Okay, well, the thing is, all right, I gotcha. Because the 3rd string has this thing, right? Because between the G and the B, because they're tuned differently, you know, you basically lose a note, or you repeat it so soon that sometimes you're better off playing 2 notes. That's what the CAGED system does, more or less. But otherwise, you can just move up. And that's what the 3 notes per string does, right? So 3 notes per string does this. Right? I go up. I don't go. And basically, you earn or you gain a fret, and then you gain that movement forward, and you end up with 1 more note than the CAGED system. All right? So what should you do? Whatever you want. But what would I do? I'm going to show you how I learn scales. I don't really practice scales anymore that much because I've done a lot of that in my youth, and there are scales that you do need to know extremely well and deeply, and I would say major, minor, all the diatonic modes, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, and so on. You should know the pentatonics, at least the most basic ones, definitely major and minor. There's a few others we'll talk about later. And then you should know at least the natural and harmonic, the melodic and harmonic minor scales, and at least some of their modes. Okay, for me, Phrygian dominant. There's so many. You know, the alter scale. I really enjoy the Lydian Mixolydian or Lydian flat 7. I enjoy the Mixolydian flat 6, as I showed you. There's a few of them, you know, and those you should really know well. And I'm going to tell you, to me, what it is knowing a scale well, and then you can decide for yourself. All right. So first of all, when you learn a scale, you don't want to be a slave to the method. So CAGED, 3 notes per string or whatever. And to free yourself of that, you should know the notes of the scale. Sometimes it goes through watching a good video like mine on the circle fifths, and sometimes it just means memorizing. It doesn't matter, but you have to know your scales. So if I'm playing the Lydian dominant of C, I have to know the notes. I have to know C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B flat, and C. And if I move it to F, I have to be able to do it. You know, I have to go, okay, F, G, A, B, C, D, E flat, F, and so on. Because that will free you up from the CAGED system or 3 notes per string, you know, any of the mechanical systems, and it will open up the neck for you. I'm assuming you've done that, and keep in mind you don't have to do it now. You can just practice what I'm saying with something simple, like the C major scale, right? It's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and that's it. You can all do it today if you want to. But I would do this. I would first study in no particular order, but I would do this if you were a student and you wanted to get playing quickly. I would give you the CAGED system first, all right? And I would say, okay, do the CAGED system, but watch it is not enough to just memorize the shapes. You can get by with the shapes for a while. If you're completely new to the guitar, you'll be able to improvise. You'll be able to develop your ear, because even if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you're still using it. You can form opinions, which are extremely important in music. As a matter of fact, the main thing in music, if you want to be a musician that also writes music and improvises and performs, is having opinions. That's your style, right? The sum of your opinions and your decisions. And then I would say, okay, once you have the CAGED system, I'm going to start weaning you on the one string. So I will ask you to learn every scale, C major in this case, on every string. Like if somebody gave you a guitar with only one string, and then you have 6 guitars laying around and they're all different, they only have one string. And we talked about it maybe just a couple of weeks ago. And that's what I would do. I would have you play just like that, you know, C major. And I will ask you to improvise over actual chord progressions and actual songs, because I don't want this to be just an exercise. You know, this will be a way of seeing the guitar and of recognizing the melodic aspect of each scale. So in this case, C major. Then once that's done, and that takes a while, then I will ask you to play over on the 3 notes per string, simply because I think it's useful technically. So I would give you the 3 notes per string as well. And then I would go into the more esoteric things. So I would ask you to play 4 notes per string. And 4 notes per string sounds easy, right? Because if you're in C major, you go E, F, G, A, and then you keep going from the next string, B, C, D, E, and then F, G, A, B, and then you switch, right? And then you can go backwards. Right, this is C major, of course. Could you do it in I don't know, can you do it in A major? Can you do it in B flat major? Can you do it in B flat minor? See what I mean? Slowly you can work your way up. Now, what this does is, it's really hard to memorize a pattern here, because depending on what note to start, they're all different. And so it forces you to actually learn your notes. So if you haven't done it in the CAGED system when I suggest it, now you're kind of forced to do it, all right? So it's a really cool exercise. And then what I would do, let's see, we've done all that. Okay, then I would do something that I learned from the Goodrick book, The Advancing Guitarist. And I won't go into it. I'm just going to put it out there. You could say, okay, well, why am I playing only 5 positions in the CAGED system or why am I playing 7 positions in the 3 notes per string system if I have 12 frets? Why can't I play 12 positions, 1 per fret? So if my index finger is on 4th fret, I'm going to call that the 4th position. And I'm going to find a way right, of playing one position for each of the 12 frets, okay? If you want me to get into it, I will get into it in another video. But there was another thing that opened my eyes in the Goodrick book, because the one string thing, he goes deep with it, but I already kind of figured it out for myself before the book. But this thing of playing over 12 positions drove me crazy. All right, so yeah, that's what I would do. You can watch it again because I went pretty fast, but that would be my approach. Now, should you have this approach with everything? Well, I don't think so. Again, I would suggest you do that with the scales that are extremely important, right? So definitely major, minor, the modes, and then you go on from there. Pentatonics, you know, all that kind of stuff. Pentatonics, for example, are a great example of what's wrong with the CAGED system sometimes, because the pentatonics positions that we all know, they do come from the CAGED system. They're very specific to the CAGED system. Basically, they are CAGED system minus 2 notes. And you know how predictable and square the phrasing on the pentatonics can be. Go watch any band you want in a club or something, excuse me. And a lot of guitar players, they play the same solo, because it's so easy and so ergonomic to the fingers, you know, it's so easy to perform. Now you spread them over a single string, you know, you might get some interesting phrasing. And I did that in a song, it's called Written in the Sand, and I played that whole solo just with a pentatonic major scale, which is terrifying. First of all, I'm terrified of major scales because they're so deeply set in your brain that if I screw up one little something, a little vibrato that's a bit out, your brain goes like, ah, it goes panic, because this is not what I'm supposed to hear. You can get away with the exotic scales with all kinds of stuff, but the major scales are, you know, they're really strict. And also the pentatonic, it can be a bit, you know, predictable. And so I did a whole solo just on that by using movement over different strings. And that is very interesting, how you can give new life to a scale just by changing the way you set it. All right? Yes, I understand what you're saying. Okay, great. Wait, let me change this. All right. That was great. When you move down up the fretboard with the 4-note scale, that is practical. Oh yeah, of course. And it gives you new ideas, you know, for new patterns and new. It's really a different way of looking at the music. Now, one final thing. When you get all this stuff done properly, then it all disappears. Right? And it goes by degrees, of course. It's not like you go from, I know nothing, to, oh, now I know everything and it's all disappeared. I wish. But eventually you will realize how on certain keys maybe, or on certain types of scales, maybe major comes first and then minor, but you realize how everything you play is there and you can access it in any way you want. And the reason I like to use all these, let's call them 4, there's more, but you know, 5 maybe. I like to use the CAGED system to get things started. The 3 notes per string is very technical, and it starts introducing the idea that you kind of have to know the notes. It's not enough to know the root. You kind of have to know the notes. And then I do the 1 string only, extremely important, and it changes your phrasing, it changes your dependency on patterns, because the patterns are broken, and so it forces you into that. And then I do maybe the 4 notes per string. That can be, of course, the 4 notes per string is just an example. I mean, just setting new rules for each string. So you could do even 2 notes per string and go that way. Or you can go 5 notes, right? Stuff like that. That's just an example. And then you can try the 12 positions. I might make a video on the 12 positions if you're ready. You know, of course you're ready, but you know, it will ruin your weekend. Sean, I use unisons to break these shapes up. Okay, all right, on different strings. Well, this can go so deep, all right? So I think we should stop the so-called masterclass here. But please write your comments and questions. I see there's quite a few of you. If you want to introduce yourself and you're a bit shy, don't be. Please write something in the chat, and so we get to know you. I know there's a few of you who have been around here a long time and never quite found the nerve to write, but you don't have to be afraid. They're all very nice people here. And we're actually missing a couple today of the usual suspects. Indrajit's not here. Alex is not here today. And Carlos. By the way, I never watched my videos, but I watched one last week. And every time I drink, you can hear in the microphone. And I do apologize. It's not the best sound in the world. And I'm trying to swallow lighter, silently, but it doesn't work. So I would probably have to mute my microphone every time. But then, can I turn it back on? That's the thing. All right, so I'll wait for your comments or questions for a little while, and then think of something for next week, because I didn't know what to do this week, and then this thing hit me, and I go, wow, okay, that might be interesting. It's ASMR, really me swallowing. I don't know, I'm getting so self-conscious of it. See, now I'm gonna mute the microphone. Yeah, okay, thanks though. I hope, because I don't want to be gross. So, by the way, Akash, did I answer your question? I guess I did, right? Which one I use? I've used all of them. And yeah, you don't have to use all of them, of course, but it's a good way of getting things started in your mind. And don't forget, the guitar is only an instrument. This works with every instrument, all right? The good thing is, if you could, like when I play my synthesizers, I play the same stuff that I play on guitar. And that's a bad thing, right? Because I might do something new sometimes. But the interesting thing about me playing the same music, or not my own songs, but I improvise in the same kind of way. And that to me it demonstrates how I don't worry about the guitar as an actual way of learning. The guitar is just the application of what I learned. And the stuff that I don't know so well, then I do become tied to the guitar. Like some strange chord, I can play it on the guitar and then I play it on the piano, and it's a different thing because I haven't mastered it. But the things that you master, then it doesn't matter what instrument you use. So don't forget that the instrument is just the tool. I've heard the swallowing thing on other feeds. I went from that sounds weird to laughing now when I hear it. All right, so now I'm extremely self-conscious of it. Thank you, that is art. Shit. Now, now I'll have to mute the microphone all the time. And is this a theremin? Yes, it's a theremin. It's one of the Moog ones, but the simple ones. And I got it for a birthday a long time ago, and I haven't really mastered it. It sounds like shit. I can't tune it, but it has a trick. You can hit a button and then it kind of tunes itself, so it becomes scalar. But I haven't had time. But I will play it eventually. It is on one of my records. Just doing like just doing that. I'm kind of in the habit of connecting 3 notes per string with pentatonic. All right, that is interesting. I sound like shit myself. We did too. Oh, so you have a theremin? Yeah, well, Moog just came out with a really cool one a few weeks ago. It's great, made of wood, with a big tripod. But the thing, I can't, justify it. I just can't play it. And I would love to play, but I would love to play everything, right? And I was gonna make a video soon, if you guys want, on why it's important to play more instruments, because some of you know most of my records I play everything, usually not drums but everything else, and I play a little bit of drums, and it is a very interesting subject on the things that happen in your mind when you approach different instruments, similar to how when you approach scales from different methods and point of view, like we did today. Maybe we can have a discussion on that soon. And yeah, also, by the way, I want to thank you again. I got your donations. There's a few more this week. I don't know why. Maybe last video was better. I don't know. And so thank you. I'm not going to say who it is, but thank you for doing that. It's very much appreciated. And actually, I made things easier. Now there's a link down there, and there's set amounts. You can do it if you watch it later. And these videos will always be here and free, of course. But for those of you who wanted to contribute, thank you. I really appreciate it. When I get the message, I always say, well, then they must have found it useful. And to know that people across the world are watching this and get benefits from it, I started playing in the 90s and this was unthinkable. So thank you guys. A friend bought a theremin. It came in 1 million pieces for him to put together. Really? Well, maybe it was broken. Maybe bought a Thermin like I bought my reel-to-reel last week. Remember that? It's at the tech now, so it's getting fixed. And I should have it soon. You know, I brought it to him on Monday, and he said, okay, well, I'm gonna call you with a quote, and we should be ready by Friday. And today's Saturday, and he hasn't even called me with a quote. So there's two options. Either he's very busy, or he opened it up and said, wow, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna tell him how much it's gonna cost him to fix it? So I will let you know though, as soon as I have it, maybe we'll try it out. But yeah, has it happened to you that you buy something and you think, why did I get into this? What do I need a reel-to-reel recorder for? You know, or sometimes it doesn't happen too often because I'm quite you know, deliberate with my buying habits. But still, sometimes I buy something and I go, why did I get into this? Especially secondhand stuff. You know, you buy it and you're like, now I have to deal with all the crap that the other guy didn't want to deal with. All right, so I guess this is it for today. I don't see any questions. If you do have questions, I'm going to give you a couple more minutes and then we're going to wrap it up and reconvene next week. All right. If you have any more ideas for a future video, let me know in the comments or here in the chat. And yeah, so hopefully next week I'll have something new about the book. I don't know if you guys even care about it, but it would be pretty cool to check it out because there's a bunch of exercise that I think will help you with the alternate picking thing. And then if it goes well, not well too well, but if it's useful, I'm gonna do more. And I don't know if it's useful, but I'll do it because doing things sometimes it's important and not just think about it. All right, so have a good one. And Reki, it's good to have you here and come back next week. Thanks for joining. And I hope you all have a great weekend. There's a few more hours to go today and then tomorrow. And then you come back on Monday, get back to work or school or whatever it is you're doing, recharge. And that's it. Thanks again, Andre. Another great learning lesson. These sessions are understandable and enjoy them. All right, great. Thanks, Darizard. I appreciate it. Alberto, thanks. See you on Saturday. Yes. Juan Pablo, hello. Bye. Bye, everybody. You're welcome. Interesting lesson. I will have a look into the cage. I used to per string. All right, man. Jim. All right. Well, I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.